Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. I'm here with Steve Nobel from SoulMatrix.com. He is a spiritual coach, a healer, and an author. Today we're talking about ascension. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Linda. Thanks for inviting me.
All the Lightworkers are talking about this pivotal time we're in and the ascension that humanity is going through or evolving through. Can you give us an overview of what that means?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I never really believed in it very much, I must say. I used to be a director of this spiritual organization hosting authors, and I heard a few people talking about it. I heard people talking about the importance of 2012, and I thought, well, I don't know if I believe any of it. But the closer I got to 2012, something started to shift powerfully in my own life. So around 2009, 2010, I had a really big shift, which changed everything. Which led me to leave alternatives, which led me to leave my then long-term partner. It set me on a whole journey, a journey that I wasn't really wanting because I felt I'd arrived in this lovely place with a nice spiritual partner and working as a director of a nice spiritual organization. But I left and essentially went into a bit of a dark period for a while. And then when I came out of this dark night of the soul period, I felt reconnected to source, you could say, reconnected to guidance, which I felt very connected to before. And the first thing I heard was, you're going to teach about Starseeds and Ascension. And, you know, it wasn't the most welcome guidance I'd ever heard. It was great that suddenly I was being reconnected with again and being guided and spoken to again. But I didn't really want to do it. Because even though I've been a director of a spiritual organization, this was much more out there. But anyway, I meditated on it for a couple of weeks and I thought, well, resistance is not the path. I just have to go with it. This is what I'm being told. So I went with it. And from about, I think it was early January 2016, I kind of launched the soulmatrix.com and went on this path. And I really wanted, first of all, to learn myself really super fast. What is this all about? And a lot of it was stuff that I had come across before. I mean, I'd done a lot of training with channels and a lot of training with spiritual teachers over the time, but they didn't really talk in terms of ascension, but obviously something was happening on the planet that I thought I could think of it as a kind of global spiritual revolution happening. And to explain ascension, I have to really talk about star seeds and non-star seeds. So star seeds are souls whose natural home environment is not the earth plane, this earth plane. They may have been here for a while, they may have had their lives here, but it's not their natural home. And starseeds come in, they essentially come in, this very topical subject, I suppose we could say, as a light virus to kind of infect the world with light, infect the world with another way of thinking, another way of looking at things, another way of downloading information, another way of expanding light in the energy field, another way of raising their vibration. A lot of people have been on the planet for a long time, reincarnationally caught in this kind of reincarnational cycle on the earth plane, won't understand ascension, won't understand angels coming back on the earth, won't understand a lot of the spiritual talk out there, won't understand channeling. They think it's all crazy. So what I tell starseeds is, if you've got someone in your family, and a lot of starseeds have got families who are not starseeds, they will think you're completely bonkers, and don't worry about it. Don't try and change them, because they will not understand. Their kind of psyche and their energy system is not set up for it. So starseeds come as a light virus. They're coming to help shift the planet. So ascension is really going from a low frequency matrix dimension, and people call it the third dimension. And the third dimension is essentially fear and separation, control, manipulation, all the things we read in the history books. You know, if you read the history books for the last 2,000 years, that's the 3D matrix, really. And if you read the newspapers, which is who's to blame, whose fault is it, who's getting fired, who's right, who's wrong, that's the 3D matrix. And in that matrix, there's a certain vibrational frequency, and that vibrational frequency does not allow, for example, you create your reality, which is a concept which is being birthed on the planet, or we create our reality. That is not a 3D concept. And people vibrating at 3D, which is fear, anger, blame, resentment, cannot even if they get the concept, will not be able to manifest because their energy won't allow them, and they'll just think it's nonsense. So Ascension is a process of shifting your energy field, shifting your vibration. There's DNA activations going on. There's activations within the chakra systems going on, which essentially shifts our perception, it shifts our mindset, shifts our energy, so that for a lot of people, an old life ends at some point. You know, an old life ends and a new one begins. And there's a whole lot of symptoms and resistance around this process. It's not an easy process for most people, I would say. It's a challenging one. So that's the most basic description I can give you at the moment.
I'm curious as to why you didn't want to step on this path.
In the spiritual organization I was in for a long time, I took the kind of decision to make it a middle of the road organization, have a broad appeal to reach everyone, you know, whether it's voice work, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's, you know, meditation. It was a kind of middle of the road in a way. It wasn't too out there, it wasn't too scary. But I felt what I was being asked to do was to go beyond that and go into a realm which is like talking to people about starseeds, talking to people about ascension. It's a whole different ball game for me. And for one that I think many of my old colleagues would not understand, still probably wouldn't understand. They'll look at me like, well, fine, if that's what you think. And these are kind of people with interspiritual conversations. So I was going beyond it. So I kind of worried, you know, my children already thought I was weird enough. I kind of worried that, you know, am I going to go too far out there? You know, where am I heading with all this? So my way of actually accepting it is to be as ordinary as possible in this extraordinary experience. So, you know, like you can see that apart from the odd bling, Moldavite rings and necklaces and pendants, whatever, I dress pretty normally. You wouldn't notice. I'm not going around wearing rainbow dreadlocks or dressed all in white or namasteing everyone. You know, I'm not doing that. So this is my way of, it's okay. I can sail way out there. We can talk about extraordinary stuff and be and experience extraordinary vibrations, but I need to do it in a very grounded way, ordinary way. And one way, of course, is to talk about stories, mine and others, which grounds it for people. You know, I'm not trying to convert anyone. I'm not trying to say you must believe me. I'm just saying, look, this is an interesting take on what's going on the planet. Check it out. And if, I mean, for starseeds, they would definitely resonate with it. Non-starseeds won't. They won't even bother looking at my website. So that's the way. It was going much further out there than I really wanted to do, even though privately in my own life, I was doing a lot of channeling training and light body training and all these kind of things, light body surgery, all these way out things. But it was always for me privately or friends maybe, but it's never publicly. And now I was being asked to make it public, and I was a bit wary about that.
Well, it is definitely a different time on Earth, and it is a lot more safer to be out there. There's a lot more freedom of speech, and people's minds are being opened.
Well, at the beginning, I thought, as just a practical business model, you know, working for Starseeds, is that a good idea? You know, am I going to get anyone coming, anyone interested? I didn't know. And of course, now I'm bombarded with interest and queries, and can I have sessions with you, and let me know when you're coming to America or Canada, all this kind of thing. So it's really nice because it was really unexpected. I didn't set out on this path, you know, this is a great money-making deal. I set out thinking this is probably a bad business decision, but it's one I'm called to do.
Well, you just never know, right?
Yeah, I know.
So this process of ascension, is that just for 3D humans, or is that for starseeds as well?
I think ascension is for everyone. So for starseeds, it's shifting from 3D to 4D to 5D. And 3D is what I said, you know, rocks are hard, water's wet type of mentality. This is the world. You're not going to change it. There's a government, you know, there's your mother and father, you know, there's all these kind of structures, and we have to fit in and find our way through it. And in that 3D, we have a 3D ego, which is our defense mechanism, and also our guidance system, you know, how we get through that matrix. And then the shift is to 4D. And 4D is essentially a shift into more mastery. It's not about your boss controls your reality. It's not about your government. It's about, I am the creator. That's the big shift. I am the creator of my reality. And we co-create realities. And when I first was introduced to this subject, this was one of the early concepts. I thought, this is incredible. I couldn't understand it, but some part of me really resonated with it. So it's really about manifesting and allowing and creating, and and I explored everything. I explored shamanism, metaphysics, Wicca, everything. And I was really interested in the whole manifestation. I wanted to test it all out. And I tried all kinds of things and was pushing the boat, which I don't do anymore, but I wanted to know if it was real. And I think a lot of people, the question is, how do I know this is real? And so personal experience is the way you know it's real. So from 4D, moving through 4D, which is about mastery really, there comes to 5D, which is really about, you could say, unity consciousness. Everything is vibration. It's not about mantras and manifesting and vision boards. It's all about your core vibration, which if you raised it and stabilized it, will shift your reality. So you don't have to be doing, I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I don't sit there thinking, where's my vision board today, or what mantras am I going to do? I don't do anything like that. It's more intention and vibration. So I think for me, when I started coming out of the dark night, I started hitting the lower levels or upper levels of 4D, lower levels of 5D. I was kind of exploring 4D for a long time, with lots of workshops and everything. So 5D is really where we can synchronicity, miracle consciousness, bliss, these kind of states, flow, are more a 5D conversation. It's less about manifesting and creating and allowing and all that. It's more about flow and synchronicity and these kind of things. So this is, I think, where I'm at, and it's about stabilizing it. I mean, obviously the collective consciousness is doing its thing at the moment. It's doing its great thing with the virus. There's never been a greater time of more fear and confusion and maybe angst on the planet. So the starseeds, now starseeds are particularly sensitive, and so they can absorb energy. So it's really important. Anyone listening to this, I'm assuming you'll be a starseed because you won't be interested otherwise. It's really good as a practice to clear your energy every day, because absorbing the collective energies is only going to bring your energy down. Watching endless media, I'm not saying don't listen or watch some media, but endlessly listening to these stories, will bring the energy down. And the key thing is to raise our energy up. And for me, one of the key protections around something like, for example, this virus is viruses and diseases are vibrational, which means there are 3D vibrational illnesses and diseases. There are 4D ones, or lower to mid. And once we raise our energy to a certain point, really those diseases, illnesses are finding it incredibly hard to gain access to touch people. So I'm not saying don't follow all the standard procedures, safe distancing and isolation. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of things which just won't manifest in your reality when you shift your vibration to a certain level. So starseeds are on the ascension path. They're shifting up. Earth seeds, or people who've been here a long time who just think it's all nonsense, they're waking up in a different way. They're waking up through revelation, which is, if you look on social media, a lot of people in conspiracy theories and listening to all these websites, QAnon in America and all these things, these are people want to look behind the curtain. If you look at that Wizard of Oz analogy, the magician behind the curtain, people are sensing that something's not right. The world is not how they thought it was. There's whistleblowers coming out now. So since 2012, there's an increase in whistleblowers. And whistleblowers are saying, look, these corporations are not doing what you think they're doing, or governments are spying. You didn't realize that. And, people like Snowden, Chelsea Manning, and Julian Assange, they're all pulling the curtain back. And that's for starseeds, yes, but starseeds are not as interested as people who've been on the planet a long time going, oh my God, this is what's happening on the planet. I didn't realize. And the more the light increases, the harder it is for those forces in control of the planet to hide things. We've had all these cases with, in England, we have Jimmy Savile and the paedophilia, and in America, you had the Epstein and all this kind of thing. So it's much harder to hide these things, but they're coming up for healing, for releasing, and there's a kind of shock factor, I think, in the collective going, oh my gosh, we're in a different world than I thought. And that's going to shift things dramatically for the whole planet, I think.
Now, Steve, not everyone who is a starseed knows they're a starseed.
Yeah,
You didn't
no,
for a long time. What would be some signs that perhaps your origin is not from Earth?
from Earth, yeah. Well, the old way of starseeds labeling themselves was I'm a light worker. So anyone who kind of identified as a light worker is almost certainly a starseed, but they just kind of, they haven't recognized the extra bit of, well, you know, I'm a light worker, I'm here to spread light, but you know, maybe I'm not from here in my soul's journey. You know, the soul's journey is vast. This is just one lifetime of many, and this is just one dimension of many. So the signs of a starseed are anyone watching shows like this, anyone interested in my website or anything like that. And there's a great proliferation of people interested in this stuff. When I was born in the late 50s and 60s, there was flower power, but you wouldn't really get people talking about this kind of thing, really. Not in, you know, the age of Aquarius to some extent, but that kind of died down a bit. It kind of resurrected itself later. Starseeds are more sensitive than most. Highly sensitive. You know, you can get earth seeds who are sensitive, but they're highly sensitive, you know, to emotions, to energies. They have a sense of there's a sense of I don't belong. I kind of think that starseeds have this curious, we all belong to the club of not belonging. It's kind of curious one, isn't it? We don't belong in the family usually. Maybe new starseeds do if your parents are starseeds, but if we're born into non-starseed family, we're the black sheep. Being a black sheep of the family is often, not always, but often a sign of being a starseed. The family doesn't like your energy. You might not be able to fit in certain corporations. I know I tried hard to fit in, and eventually corporations will spit you out because they don't like your energy, actually. They sense something's different about you. Usually they have a kind of different way of intelligence, a different way of downloading. And I've seen particularly a lot of the new starseeds, these teenage kids, they just download, pass their exams without hardly any studying. And I've witnessed this in a few teenagers. So there's this downloading process.
That was me.
Yeah. But when we were younger, we kind of didn't really get, the channeling wasn't so talked about, or downloading wasn't so talked about. So they have a different intelligence. So starseeds mostly, I mean, mind you, I kind of like school, but a lot of the new starseeds actually resist it because they don't like this authoritarian way of, you know, they need a different way of learning, actually. Homeschooling or Steiner, maybe, something like that. They're often drawn to very futuristic or out-of-the-box ideas and thinking. They're naturally drawn to those things. So some starseeds are drawn to technology. You know, Steve Jobs looks like one. Some starseeds were drawn, particularly in the 60s, to music and art because that was a way you can be crazy. David Bowie and John Lennon, you were allowed a lot more leeway than other areas. Other signs of being a starseed would be there's a sense of the idea of awakening is a starseed term. Wakening up from something means you were asleep before, and the term awakening applies to starseeds. As The Matrix is a film which was speaking really directly to starseeds. I think, you know, you're going to be offered the red pill and the blue pill. Which one are you going to take? How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And then you wake up, and then you see the world is not exactly how you thought it was. I mean, I'm not saying we've got all these weird machines governing us, but the metaphor of waking up into a world where you were sleeping, and starseeds are waking up. And when starseeds get that call, there's normally a resistance to it. You know, we all have 3D egos, and we resist. You know, you get called, the hero's journey. You know, the hero gets called and he resists. Starseeds are getting called in their thousands, maybe millions at the moment. You know, and there's a process of wanting to leave the 3D matrix, wanting to, I don't fit in this 3D life, this 3D marriage, this 3D job, this 3D home environment. And so that shift can be difficult because there's a period of confusion. Well, if I don't fit here, where am I going? You know, where the soul is pulling starseeds out of the box, out of the familiarity zone, which is a bit like, the analogy I usually use is you've got a ship or a boat in a nice safe harbor, and you might move that boat from side to side. You know, I'm changing my life. I'm moving my boat over there. That's not what your soul wants. The soul says, get that boat out into the sea and go find that other landscape. And you're going, no, I don't trust that. That journey looks a bit difficult. What if it sinks? What if I'm shipwrecked? So that's the journey. It's a bit scary that starseeds are being called on a journey of awakening, and they don't completely understand it usually. There's a lot of resources now to help them understand it, but they don't always understand the journey, and that creates a lot of resistance at the beginning until they finally give up and go, okay, I'm just going to do it. I have no choice. The soul impulse overwhelms the resistance usually, which is the caterpillar in us becomes the butterfly, or is on the journey to the butterfly. Of course, we have to go through the cocoon thing first in the darkness of what's happening. I don't know. I'm changing. You know, my friends don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. So it's nice to have shows like this where people can get some understanding of the process from people who've gone through it already. Could say, don't worry, you're just mutating, you know. So yeah, it's a process which is not easy, but in the terms of the reincarnational cycle, starseeds have been through it before. Here we are, these caterpillars being called into the cocoon to become a butterfly, and there's a sense of timing with that. You know, we don't force the process. The soul is in control of the process, and when we get called, we go through this journey, which is essentially one of and I'm going to plug a book here. I know you don't mind me plugging a book, but if anybody's interested in the awakening process, I wrote this book called Personal Transitions. I think it's mostly on Kindle. You can find some outrageously priced books. I've got a few here in UK. This is a process of awakening, and it's a number of stages, which is true for everyone. And the first stage is the stage of tension. There's what we call soul tension. There's a tension. My life is something, I don't know, my life is not, there's something not quite right, you know, and we might rejig our life. We might kind of go through all kinds of, you know, trying to rejig our work, trying to change our girlfriend, but basically it doesn't work. And eventually we come to a place of choice. We come to a place of choice. Am I going to go with the journey or not? And some of us resist the journey, and some of us go with the journey.
Are you going to take the red pill or the blue pill?
Yeah. And we can take, you know, the pill that says we go back in the matrix. And for a while, we may resist the journey. I know I resisted the journey, but resistance creates problems. And a lot of people who go through dark nights, that's created through a resistance. And the dark nights trying to overcome the resistance. Once we take the pill of I'll do the journey, the next process is one of release. The old life starts going. The old girlfriend, the old house, the old possessions start releasing. So there's a process of release, and there might be some grief with that as well. You know, like where's my old life going? I don't know where I'm heading, but I'm sensing I'm having to let go of everything. And then that process, and they're not like stage one ends and then stage two begins. They overlap a lot. And in fact, you might come to a place where all of these processes are going on at the same time. The next process is recalibration. You go into the cocoon. You go into this kind of void space of, you know, something's leaving. I haven't quite found my new life yet. What's my purpose? I don't know. You know, people are, where's my purpose? Where am I from? Which star system? I need to know the answers to these questions. But the answers to those questions do not appear in the recalibration. Your energy is being recalibrated. You're being turned into the butterfly. And then the final stage is a re-emergence. You emerge into the world going, wow, now what am I here to do? My old life's gone. Something new's here. I've got a vague sense. I need to take the step and just start following that path. And the more you follow the path, the more the path becomes solid, the more the vagueness turns into clarity. And you go, eventually you go, I think I know what I'm here for. And it starts clicking. The dots start connecting on the journey. So at the beginning, we can't see where it's ending up. But when we at the end stage of the journey, we look back and go, oh, I can see how all those phases fitted together, and it's perfect. But while we're on the journey, it's not really easy, actually. And for some people, the journey is super rough, and some people it's rough, and some people it's not so rough. You know, we all choose the path that really, some of us need a stronger slap, you could say, to wake us up. Some of us need a lighter squeeze, you know. So it depends what we need. It's not that we're being punished. The universe is going, whatever you need, we'll give you to really wake you up. You know, and sometimes someone really needs a divorce. Sometimes someone needs a redundancy. Sometimes someone needs that illness. You know, I've met people who've said, that cancer was the best thing that happened to me. It woke me completely up. So those things are chosen to really wake us up. And the prime directive of the soul is growth and service. Starseeds, it's growth and service. Everyone else is growth. So Starseeds have a double one. I'm here to grow, but I'm here to serve as well. So, and Starseeds feel this great impulse to serve, which Earthseeds may not in the same way, certainly not in such a spiritual way as Starseeds. Hope that answers something. Linda.
Yeah, definitely. Steve, it's been really wonderful chatting with you today.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, very good, very good. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You'll find all our conversations on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify, and Anchor.fm, as well as on our Facebook page. Remember to check the show notes that link to our guest. Come and visit me at thoughtchange.com, where you can schedule a private conversation to see how you can personally expand your own consciousness. Bye for now.